And Sharon joins us live now for the latest. You can see the breaking news story around Iran on the side of your screens. Sharon, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. So we do understand Iran has withdrawn from these Navy drills. Tell us more.
That is our understanding. A senior government source, a very credible government source, confirming to SABC News that they initiated discussions around Iran's withdrawal because they did not want to escalate political and diplomatic tensions with, you guessed it, Bongi, with the United States, right? Given just the story you've been watching about the tensions you're seeing between Iran and the United States, but also, broad picture here, the African Growth and Opportunity Act comes up for discussion in the House of Representatives this week. The possible long-standing and much-anticipated renewal of AGOA is beckoning. And as you well know, South Africa has fought very hard to remain within the preferential status that sub-Saharan Africans have now enjoyed for decades in terms of the African Growth and Opportunity Act. And so given the trade impediments, the economic imperatives here for South Africa, initiating discussions that Iran withdraw from these Navy drills under the auspices of BRICS, and of course being led by China near Simonstown. Now, a number of Iranian vessels, we understand, had already arrived in Simonstown off the, near South Africa, in South Africa, and our understanding now is that those vessels will no longer participate in those drills, Bongiwe.
And Sharon, of course, this is quite the big development, and it cannot be viewed in isolation, right, from what you've just reported about what's going on in Iran. And as you mentioned even earlier on, what's happening with the U.S.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much happening in the United States, Bongi. It's difficult sometimes to keep track, right? And you look at one story like this, right? The protests, the economic protests that have been spurred by dire economic conditions in Iran. The rial has depreciated, which has raised food costs, and that's why you've seen the proliferation of protests in various centers, no less in the capital, Tehran, in Iran, and a quite repressive response here from the Iranian government. We are getting reports that hundreds, if not thousands, of protesters have been killed. We also understand that hundreds of security personnel in Iran have been killed. And there is this overarching U.S. military threat. The President of the United States being unequivocal in his positioning in terms of the United States seeking to intervene here on the side of the protesters, warning that a military option remains on the table. The President is due to be briefed by his Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and the Joint Chiefs tomorrow. And so the Iranians also sort of fighting back and saying they will be ready. They prefer a diplomatic off-ramp here, but they are ready for war if that is what the United States chooses. And so, that's one area. And then you have the other optics here in terms of South Africa seeking to engender a favorable environment to continue being part of the African Growth and Opportunity Act in the context of a number of bills that are before the House of Representatives and the Senate seeking to exclude South Africa, seeking to review the bilateral relationship between South Africa and the United States. And so all these tentacles, part of this octopus, if you will, are very much at play in terms of the broad picture here, the U.S. engagement with Iran, South Africa's engagement via BRICS, South Africa's relationship with the United States, and we can go on.
Sharon, we can expect, of course, that you'll bring us the very latest as far as the story is concerned. This late edition will also be looking at this matter. But thank you so much for that. And you can see there on your side of the screen, you've just heard Sharon there telling us that, in fact, Iran vessels will now no longer be participating in the naval drills that you would have heard about in Simonstown. So late edition will then be taking you through some of the key developments as far as this is concerned, given the fact that right now we're also seeing a lot that is currently going on as far as the developments in the United States are concerned. So certainly a lot of focus on this particular story, but that's how we leave it for the full view. The late edition takes up at the top of the hour, in fact, and they'll be bringing you more of this, especially even with the class of 2025 matric, that is, they've achieved an 88% pass rate. Congratulations to all of you.